everybody, this is Brian Goulet of the Goulet Pen Company. This is another video in my series of Noodler's Flex Pen videos. I wanted to break the Flex Pen videos out into several different ones, try and keep them shorter, cover individual topics more thoroughly rather than string together a long video. So that's what I'm doing. And on this one I'm going to focus on doing a thorough disassembly and cleaning of your Flex Nib pen if you want to change colors. Now if you're using the same color and you just want to keep on going with it, you don't need to do this. This is for a thorough cleaning, like if you're using something that's really heavily saturated, not easy to clean out of the pen. I'm going to show you how to completely take this thing apart so that you can completely clean the thing out. Now it's not just for the Flex Pen. I'm using a Flex Pen in the demo here, but you can use it for any of the Noodler's piston-fill pens because they're the same body. The pen is the same, it's just the nib that's different on those pens. So this will be useful for either one of those types of pens. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. Let's give it a shot here. Alright, so here we are. I'm in a scenario where I have just about finished out my ink. I've been doodling and having fun, la la la. That's great, but you know, I'm kind of sick of this color and I'd really like to change it to something else. So I want to thoroughly clean out my pen because I've got a nice dark ink in here and I want to switch to a light green or something. I don't know. I don't want any purple left in my pen. I want some green. So I'm going to grab my tools that I need in order to disassemble and clean this pen. And it's really, really very simple. Now normally, I would personally prefer, I got a little ink on there. I would personally prefer to do this at my sink. However, my sink is full of dishes and I don't feel like doing them right now, and also it doesn't make for good filming. So I'm going to just do it here at my desk. This is not my ideal setup, but it'll work for now. Okay, so I don't need the cap for anything. Now there's a couple of different ways I can clean it out. I can do like you normally would think to do, you know, stick the nib in there, go back and forth, you know, and that works fine, you know. So suck ink up into the pen, push it back out, suck it back in, push it back out, and do that like 100,000 times and still not feel 100% comfortable, especially because this is a demonstrator and I can see that there's still ink left in here. There's ink left up here at the piston ring, and there's all kinds of things going like that going on, and I just don't feel comfortable about how clean it is. This pen is so easy to disassemble, it's almost sickening. So all you got to do is grab the nib and the feed together with your fingers like this, give it a little bit of twist back and forth, and then it just pulls right out of there. Okay, then I can just kind of swirl that down into the water and then take a little paper towel, dry it out, bam, nib and feed are clean. Okay, now you can go a little more thorough than that, but I'm not going to spend all day getting too anal here for the purpose of the video because you got better things to do with your life than watch me clean this thing. So now we've got most of the ink out of there, but you can see we've still got, even if I suck more stuff back up in there, you know, now I'm dealing with dirty water. But most specifically, you can see there's still ink left here up at the piston seal. And I'm really anal and I don't like that being there. Now, if you see my other video about how to disassemble the pen, this step will be a little repetitive for you. But if you haven't seen it, great, this is the first time you'll see it. So what I'm going to use is a Q-tip. That's all you need to disassemble this pen. This is your tool. Okay, Nathan from Noodler's made it this way so that it was easy to disassemble and clean. You take and you make sure that the piston seal is all the way up, away from the nib towards the back of the pen. And you take your Q-tip and you jam it in here and make sure it's in there nice and tight. And then you just go counterclockwise with the back of the finial here. That way it would normally be pushing the piston down, but I'm holding back pressure and keeping it from going down, and it's forcing the mechanism to unscrew out of the back of the pen. That's what I'm doing right now. Unscrew, 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 and eventually, bam, it runs out of threads and the thing just pops right out of there. Now all I do is take that same Q-tip, kind of swab the inside, and I got a nice clean inside of the barrel. Swab it from the back. Now normally if I was at the sink, I would just take, because this part is perfectly open now, I would just take and run water straight through here, and then that would be easy. Now the part that the ink gets caught is not on the outside of the seal, it's on the inside because there's like a double seal going on here, and there's ink that's kind of sitting right in here. So what I can do with that, this part actually just unscrews entirely, so that's not even necessary. I can just kind of dip that into the water. Again, this would be easier if I was at the sink because I would just run water into it and it would be out in like 4 seconds. But in this case, it's going to take me a little longer. There's a Q-tip and you know, I can kind of swab it out of there and blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't work the best with the Q-tip situation. It works better at the sink because I can flow water, but you get the idea. Now I got to put the thing back together. Okay, I'm done with my water, so I'm going to move that out of the frame a little bit. Okay. Get water everywhere, it's a mess. This is why I like to do it at the sink. So now what you want to do when you put this thing back together, you take the threaded rod and you screw it back up into the finial. Okay. Now you can, if you want to, before you put it back together, just grab yourself a little silicone grease. This is my stuff, but any 100% silicone grease, not silicone caulk, not the stuff you get to seal your windows and bathroom tiles and that kind of stuff. This is not the same stuff. You can just take a little tiny bit and just put it on the outside here, and it just helps grease it up and makes it move nice and smooth. And it's really not entirely necessary. It's kind of a nicety, but this is something I like to do. So, you know, there you go. That's it. Okay, grease is out of the way. Now all you got to do is just take and just put this thing right back in there, and you, what would be normally unscrewing it is actually screwing it back in. And it just screws the back into the pen here, and then you can go on living your life like you normally would. And it'll just move back and forth. Ooh, see, that's nice and smooth now because I greased it up. I forgot how nice that was. I actually recommend greasing it just for your own comfort. It's kind of nice, but you don't have to do it. Okay, and then now for the part that everybody's going to freak out about. Setting the nib and the feed back in there. Okay, I covered this in the other video too, but I'm going to cover it for you again here. So you have your nib and you have your feed. And they both are kind of identical in shape like that. The feed fits inside the nib, just like that. Okay? And how you push this thing in here is going to determine how wet it writes and what kind of flex you get. So generally speaking, you want to have the nib feed much lower than the tip of the nib. You don't want them to be like on top of each other like that. You want them to be much further down. Can you see that? There you go. Okay, so you don't want it to be all the way down here. You don't want it to be all the way up here. You want it to be somewhere in the middle here. And where that you want that to end up is going to depend on what ink you're using and your personal writing style. You can play with it a little bit. There's no positive stop in here that's going to tell you, oh, okay, yes, that's the exact place. You're going to have to play with it and fiddle with it a little bit. There is a positive stop for the feed. It won't go in any further than that, okay? There's about 3 slits in my feed that you can see up there, and that's when I know it's gone down as far as it can. That's just so that your feed won't drop down into the barrel of your pen. But you're probably not going to want it to go down that far. So if you put the feed and the nib together and then put them down into your pen, that's going to give you a basic idea. It's going to friction fit in there. And you can adjust it how you want. So you can really jam that feed down in there if you want, like that. Look how far down that is. Now what this is going to do, that feed is going to soak up a lot of ink, and it's going to dump tons of ink onto this nib and write incredibly wet. Now, if you have a dry writing ink, that may be what you prefer, but probably won't want to go that route. Or if you have, it's also going to flex like crazy. If you have a really wet ink that you're trying to tame and you don't want a whole lot of flex, you can put the feed up really close to the nib, and it's going to write a lot drier. But you know, chances are it's going to end up somewhere in between. It may take a little bit of fine tuning in terms of how far it is. Now, when you're trying to pull it in and out, just grab it with your fingers and give it a little twist, and that makes it easier. So you just kind of twist it and you can pull it out, set it in. You really kind of need to play around with it a little bit. It's a $14 pen, so you know, don't freak out. It's not like it's you know a newborn baby or anything. It can take a little bit of you know, play. So there you go. Then once you get that thing set in there just like you like, and you can ink it up too, and then write with it a little bit. And if you want to push the feed down, that's why my fingers are so inky, because that's what I've been doing. You can just move the feed a little bit, and it's no problem. So anyway, then as soon as you get it in there set like you like, all you want to do is make sure that your feed is not like completely cockeyed to the side. You want to make sure it's generally in a line. You know, you don't want it to be like that. You know, you want your feed to be generally aligned with your nib, and you want to make sure your nib tines are straight together like that. You don't want to make sure they're like that, because then it's going to write scratchy. But as long as you do those things, you're going to have a generally well-writing pen, and this thing is clean, greased up nice and smooth, and all set and ready to go for your next new ink. So there you go. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, email me at brian@gouletpens.com. Happy to help you out. If I left anything out of the video, let me know. I'm happy to clarify anything here. Thanks a lot. Right on.